Welcome, everybody. My name is Senator Chip Curry, and welcome to the public hearing for the Innovation Development, Economic Advancement, and Business Committee. We are gathered here, we are convened today via Zoom in order to consider public testimony around legislation that is before us. And at this point, I would ask members of the committee to introduce themselves. And so we're seeing everyone logging in right now. And Representative Geiger, can you kick us off?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. My name is Valley Geiger. I'm the representative for District 93, Rockland and Owl's Head.
Good morning. My name is John Andrews. I represent District 73 in Western Maine, which is the towns of Buckfield, Hebron, and Paris. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah Pebworth. I represent House District 133 in the Blue Hill Peninsula, and it includes Brooksville, Brooklyn, Blue Hill, Castine, Surrey, and Sedgwick.
Senator Searway, I think you're muted.
Yeah, funny, it wasn't for a minute and they must have changed back. So anyway, good morning. I'm Senator Scott Searway and represent District 16, which covers Waterville, Winslow, Fairfield, Benton, Albion, Clinton, and Unity Township.
Good morning. This is Representative Jack Ducharme, House District 111, representing Madison, Solon, and Norwich Walk.
Who is not going?
It might be me next. I don't know if Rep Austin is in here, but I'm gonna go. Representative Tavis Hassenfuss, Winthrop, Reedfield, and part of Monmouth, which is House District 81. And with that, I will turn it over to
Representative La Rochelle. I can take it from here.
Yep, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Reagan La Rochelle, House District 86, which is part of Augusta. And I apologize, I had a last second dash to Pittsfield this morning, Representative Collmore's area, but I should be on the screen in the next 20 minutes or so.
Great. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Representative Sue Bernard. I represent Caribou, Westmanland, and New Sweden. And if I may take this moment to say that Representative Collmore is not here this morning because she didn't know that there was going to be a last-minute meeting, and she has other obligations at her other work life. So she apologizes and just was unable to move her meeting. And I'm going to toss the ball over to Representative Austin.
Yep, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good to see you all. I am Representative Sue Austin. I hail from my hometown of Gray, which is very fortunate to have Spring Meadow Golf and Country Club and also Howell's Gun Shop. Both of those entities have been with us for many, many years. And into Raymond, which I have portion of, we have Dielectric, which is a longtime company and stable force there in Raymond. And over in Casco, I have Sebago Docks Company. So, and then we jump out to Fry Island and Big Sebago Lake. And we all know how famous Fry Island is for the Fry Leap, for the ferry, and for the fact that I believe it is the only freshwater island town in the state of Maine. Thank you.
There you go.
Good morning. I'm Representative Tiffany Roberts, representing House District 6, which is the majority of North Berwick and South Berwick.
And good morning again. I'm Senator Chip Curry. I represent Senate District 11, which includes the 26 rural, coastal, and island communities of Waldo County. Today on our agenda is we will open up the public hearing for LD 2035. Do I have that correct? 2035. Thank you. And I just want to note that I am without my script as today, so I will lean on Representative Chair Roberts if I miss anything here. We will start the public hearing. The purpose of the public hearing is to hear from the bill sponsors, and then any legislators, any folks that are speaking for or against the bill from the public. And we will ask folks to limit their the public. Typically, we limit to a testimony of 3 minutes, followed by any questions. I think at that point, let's open up the public hearing for LD 2035. And Representative Roberts, have I forgotten any important messages that we typically say at the start?
I don't think so.
I've skipped over all the Zoom cautions. So assuming that we know them now. And I'm going to promote Representative Roberts. This is your bill. So I will, I'm going to promote while you're, let's go ahead. I understand this is a department bill also. Should I promote, would you like me to promote any of the department representatives who are in the attendee list before you speak?
You can bring Joan Cohen over while I open it up.
Great, thank you.
And I'm ready whenever you are.
The floor is yours.
Okay. Good morning, Senator Curry, esteemed colleagues of the Joint Standing Committee on Innovation, Development, Economic Advancement, and Business. My name is Tiffany Roberts, and I represent House District 6, which includes parts of North Berwick and South Berwick. As House Chair of this committee, I am pleased to present LD 2035, an act to make changes to the laws regarding licensure of certain individuals from other jurisdictions on behalf of the Governor, the Department of Professional and Financial Regulation, and the Office of Professional and Occupational Regulation. I know that this bill is very late in the process, but I also know that streamlining licensure is an issue of great importance to all of us. In general, this bill clarifies the intent of LD 149, Public Law Chapter 167, which our committee passed last session. There were two distinct components to Public Law Chapter 167. One component addressed certain barriers to licensure for applicants who were educated or trained outside of the United States. The other component created a process to facilitate licensure for applicants who hold an active license in good standing from another state. As you know from the department's December report to the committee, the Office of Professional and Occupational Regulation has been working diligently to implement Public Law Chapter 167. However, as I identified in the report and also later discovered, there were issues with the statutory language which were impeding the ability of the department to make progress on implementation. Rather than go into detail, I will let Joan Cohen, Deputy Commissioner, explain the concerns and proposed changes in detail. Finally, I believe I've already shared with the committee the OPOR's amendment to this bill that was, yes, just printed. I know, sorry. But in an effort to schedule the public hearing as quickly as possible at this late stage in the session, we needed to get the bill printed before all the drafting was complete. Again, I will allow the department to explain the amendment in detail. Happy to try to answer any questions, but I would recommend that you hold questions for the department.
Are there any questions for Representative Roberts? No. Welcome, Ms. Cohen. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Senator Curry, Representative Roberts, and members of the committee. My name is Joan Cohen, and I'm the Deputy to the Commissioner at the Department of Professional and Financial Regulation. I'm here today to speak in support of LD 2035. I would like to thank Representative Roberts for sponsoring this bill on behalf of the administration and the department, and for helping to shepherd it through the late submission process. I also want to sincerely apologize to the committee for the lateness of this bill and express how grateful we are for your indulgence hearing this bill toward the waning days of the session. This bill evolved as we identified some barriers to implementing LD 149 PL 2021 Chapter 167, which we'll call PL 167. As you recall, PL 167 was intended to facilitate licensure for out-of-state licensees and to establish some processes to alleviate barriers for licensures for individuals educated or trained internationally. LD 149 began as a department bill and the Office of Office of Professional and Occupational Regulations' highest priority. We also know that expeditious implementation of PL 167 was a high priority to the committee, and we are hopeful that your agreement with these final changes prior to the conclusion of the session will help us continue the important work we know you want us to do. Some of the proposed changes were identified in our December report to the committee on the implementation of PL 167. We noted in that report that certain text in the final version was not consistent with the original draft or committee discussions, and I'm referring to the sections which allow a case-by-case waiver of documentation and fees. The other changes proposed in this bill became a concern to us as we've attempted to move forward with the required rulemaking aspect of the law. We realized that PL 167 created conflict with many existing statutory provisions for out-of-state licensees that were either more generous or slightly similar, but not identical to PL 167's licensure by endorsement. The AAGs for our licensing boards have indicated that it would be difficult to move forward with rulemaking given the conflict of laws created by these conflicting sections. So let me walk you through each of those issues and our recommended changes. Sections 1 and 2 of this bill address the discretionary waiver provisions I described earlier. The intent was to allow such waivers only in situations of extreme and demonstrated hardship, and only for individuals trained or educated in foreign countries. The policy goal was to recognize that individuals who have fled war-torn countries or other extremely adverse situations may need unique assistance to help achieve licensure. However, it would not be fair or appropriate to allow a document waiver or a fee waiver unless such a waiver is a last resort. Otherwise, applicants who merely didn't wish to provide documentation or pay a fee could request a waiver. We've already had an instance in which an applicant from another state requested such a waiver. Allowing just anyone from outside of Maine to apply for the waiver would not be fair to Maine resident licensees and applicants who've provided the required documentation and have paid the required licensure fee. As I noted, this waiver should only be available on a case-by-case basis in the most extreme and demonstrated circumstances by foreign trade applicants. To address the conflict of law issue, the bill makes changes in 2 sections of statute. First, in Title 10, Section 8003H, which sets forth the licensure by endorsement language established in PL 167, we have added notwithstanding language, which reads, notwithstanding any provision of Title 10, Chapter 951, or Title 32 to the contrary, the office, including the licensing boards and commissions within the office, shall establish a process to issue a license by endorsement. This language is found in Section 3 of the bill. Second, in Title 32 and Title 10, in each appropriate chapter governing licensing entities within OPOR, the bill sets forth similar notwithstanding language that clarifies in each chapter that despite any statutory conflict, the board shall establish a license by endorsement process pursuant to Title 10, Section 8003H. This language is found in Sections 5 through 53 of the bill. I note that the number of the sections doesn't line up with the number of affected licensing entities because some of the bill sections represent changes to section head notes.
Senator Curry, just a quick question, just if we could have maybe the items in front of us on the screen so we can go along with it, that would help. I don't know if we can do that.
Senator Searway, I think what I'd like to do is do the public testimony and
Okay.
I would entertain a motion to move into work session.
All
And
right,
so we'll stay in the format and we can do that.
okay, thank you.
We chose not to resolve the conflict by eliminating any existing out-of-state licensure processes previously established by statute for the following reasons. First, in some instances, The existing provision was more generous than 8003H, and we didn't want to eliminate a more lenient pathway to licensure that is appropriate for that license type and applicant. Secondly, in some instances, it may be more advantageous for an applicant to use a different pathway to licensure because the laws of their state in which they are licensed are not substantially similar to Maine's, which is the criteria for 8003H. And third, to do a thorough review, propose eliminating language, make changes to existing language, receive AAG and board approval was just not practical in the time available. I especially want to draw your attention to Section 3 of this bill. In this section, we've included language that would allow the office and its boards and commission to issue a license by endorsement in advance of final promulgating the rules. As you know, the APA process is very time consuming. Pursuant to PL 167, the office and boards and commissions must do rulemaking in order to establish the 167 licensure by endorsement process for each of our licensing entities. That is a monumental task of research and drafting. In addition, the APA process for each of those rulemaking initiatives takes 6 months or more to complete because of the required public comment period, AAG review, etc. We, like you, want to be able to issue these licenses as quickly as possible so we can get folks into the workplace and assist Maine citizens to receive their needed services. We believe we have the ability to make a determination of substantial equivalency on a case-by-case basis prior to adopting the final rules. We would very much like to issue the PL 167 licensure by endorsement to qualified applicants, but under the current law, we are prohibited from doing so until final rules are adopted. Please note that the notwithstanding language is intended to make clear that the board shall establish a process to issue licenses by endorsement, but does not mandate that this path is available for every category of licensure. Not all license levels are appropriate for endorsement. For example, there are conditional licenses or lower level licenses, or other examples that might not be appropriate include alcohol and drug aid, pharmacy tech, or electrical and plumber helper license. As drafted, the bill appears to mandate licensure by endorsement for all license levels. That was not our intent nor the intent of PL 167. The sponsor's amendment, which you just received, removes the language for each license authorized under this chapter to clarify that intent. As Representative Roberts noted, we would like to have fixed that language prior to printing, but in an effort to get that printed, referred, and scheduled for public hearing, we needed to move forward knowing that an amendment would immediately be necessary. So we know this is a lot, especially so late in the session. We thank you for helping us streamline the licensure process for individuals who would like to join Maine's workforce and serve Maine citizens. And we thank you again for your consideration of these changes so late in the session. And I would be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Cohen. Chair recognizes Representative Andrews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have two questions, if that's all right. First, is there a definition in the bill for extreme and demonstrated hardship?
No, there is no definition for that. I think that would be in the judge, since it's a case-by-case determination, it would be in the judgment of the office, board, or commission.
Okay, so the department would be the arbiter of that pretty much.
Correct.
And I know with people who come here from other countries, isn't there some kind of time barrier to entry to workforce as well? Would that be in conflict with licensure at all? Just that's something that popped into my head while you were talking.
Yeah, I don't believe that is an issue for licensure. It is an issue for their ability to be employed.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there other questions that members want to ask before we go to additional public testimony? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Ms. Reed, is there any Is there anyone here that is registered in order to give testimony?
No.
Okay. No one, I do see someone in the panelist list. So is anyone, if anyone was seeking to give, I'm sorry, in the attendee list, if anyone was seeking to give testimony that's in the attendee list, please raise your hand. No. Okay. Having heard from all those wishing to give testimony, I will now close the public hearing on LD 2038. And I will recognize somebody with the purpose of making a motion to go into work session. Chair recognizes Representative Pebworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move we move into a work session on LD 2035.
I second it.
Thank you. All those in favor, can you raise your hand? Seeing a majority to go into favor, we're going to go right into work session on LD 2035. So at this point, Ms. Olson, can you share the screen and with the bill that is proposed?
Yes. Would you like me to share the sponsor amendment?
The sponsor,
version?
yeah, with the sponsor amendment, please.
Okay. I did send that out to the committee this morning. It is an annotated version of the printed bill, so not a separate document.
Okay.
And my apologies for anyone who could not read my handwriting.
And can you make that a little bit larger?
Yes. Sorry, just adjusting my own screens first. So sponsor amendment annotated. And I'll take direction. I'm happy to answer any other questions. I don't have a formal bill analysis for this, but I am prepared to answer any questions the committee has. And of course, Deputy Cohen is here. And she
thank you. And having just heard the testimony, Ms. Cohen, would you mind just kind of one more time the changes that we're seeing? I know we've seen this in the original report. One more time walking us through.
Sure. So section 1 and 2 address the addition of the limitation on the waivers. That adds language that says in situations of extreme and demonstrated hardship. It also removes jurisdictions, including other states, United States, and territories. So it clarifies that this is just in this, we are looking for situations where somebody has fled a war-torn country or is seeking political asylum and cannot let people know where they are currently.
I'll interrupt that. Representative Geiger, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Ms. Cohen, so these two changes are because in general, living in another state, a U.S. territory, it should always be possible to get the accompanying paperwork. And we're making an exception for those who may be refugees, who may be fleeing countries that are no longer able to assist that person in bringing their documentation to Maine. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Ducharme.
Thank you, Senator Curry. I think I just got my question answered. I wanted to clarify that there was a clear reason why the states were taken out, because again, if we're looking to streamline stuff, we need everybody in the pool as much as we can. But given what was stated in terms of people trying to use it as a alternative method to get licensed without paying fees and so forth, I can understand now why the striking out of those other states' language is in there. Thank you.
Okay. Chair recognizes Senator Searway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just, it seems when you take the states in the United States out that it's more directed toward foreign nations. And I'm just wondering if that I'm just wondering if that's the case here, because I really think it should include our states and United States. I'm just trying to wonder why we would take that out.
Thank you, Senator Searway. Ms. Cohen, would you address this? There's a couple different things going on in this bill. Can you address how that question that?
Sure. So this is only for the waiver of documentation and the waiver of fees. And we couldn't envision a situation where somebody who attended a U.S. school could not access their the school documents were not available. And similarly, for the kind of extreme and demonstrated hardship for waiving of fees, it's not automatic. I mean, you would have to show that your circumstances were so extreme that a fee was not, a payment of a fee was not possible.
Follow up on that, Mr. Chair.
Please.
So what I don't understand is why it wouldn't be included, because it could be, from what I'm hearing from you, that it could be a situation even in the States. It doesn't necessarily mean it will, but it could be. And also, I know, in law enforcement, we have a hard time when somebody comes to our state, try to license them as law enforcement. But there's waiver things that happen. But I just didn't want to see us take states in the United States out when it includes everybody. And that's what I'm concerned about.
Right. So the rest of the sections create the licensure by endorsement for out-of-state licensees. And that's where simplifying licensure for individuals who are licensed outside of Maine comes into play.
Chair recognizes Representative Andrews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious if this bill's intent is to limit out-of-state applicants in favor of foreign applicants. It kind of seems like what's going on with the language being struck. Thank you.
Ms. Cohen, did you want to address that?
Yes, please. So not at all. So just the first two sections only address the case-by-case fee waiver and case-by-case documentation waiver in extreme and demonstrated hardship for those individuals. The rest of the bill and frankly, the Public Law 167 create the significantly simplified process for licensure by endorsement for out-of-state applicants. So anyone who has a license in another state, through the process that was set forth in the bill last year, along with the clarifications that we are proposing, will create a significantly simplified process for bringing out-of-state licensees into the Maine economy.
Okay. Chair recognizes Representative Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ms. Cohen. Good to see you. Glad to have you with us. It might help our committee to, and I don't mean to put you on the spot because I'm afraid this perhaps the work that has been ongoing predates your joining the department. But for many years, we saw the difficulty of people coming in with their credentialing and becoming streamlined and working simple nursing certificate. I mean, it was quite endless. And so work was started to afford us of having the professional and trades that we really needed to help Maine. And then I think, so work has been done on that. And along the way, there were some really startling examples of, let's just say, a physician from a foreign country, and they were working like maybe busboying. I mean, it was ridiculous. And so work started. So I don't know if you can give any of those specific examples that we saw in committee over time that just warranted addressing, that we had people with educations and valuable services that they could bestow on the people of Maine, but they weren't being allowed to. That may help give some grounding to what this journey, I guess I'd call it a journey, to get to the point where we have people being able to work in categories where they truly are educated and have the background and whatever years of service doing it. Do you think that you could do that for us?
So I don't know if I can give specific examples, but perhaps what might help is to describe what you already accomplished, what this committee already accomplished in Public Law 167 with the licensure by endorsement. So what licensure by endorsement allows is that an individual who's already licensed in another state, if they want to come to Maine, instead of having to produce all of the documentation that they had to produce when they were initially licensed, so go back and provide their educational transcripts and documentation of their internship, and I'm trying to think of what else, so the very specific information, and come forward with that exact specific documentation that they've already provided to another state, and then have to bring it to Maine. What Public Law 167 does, and this does not change, is instead, when an applicant comes, we will look to the licensing requirements of that state. And if they are substantially similar to Maine's, we will issue them a license by endorsement. So they don't have to then come in and say, find all of the documentation that they once produced. So it creates a substantially reduced burden on the applicant, and we should be able to license them more quickly. Is that helpful?
Let's go ahead and move forward on the rest of the changes. We've got the screen share up, so if we can walk us through. So the first two sections deal with the hardship internationally, and then section 3 starts to get into.
Yep.
Walk us through changes. Thank you.
Yep. So section 3 is the notwithstanding language that I talked about. So by adding, notwithstanding any provision of Title 32 or Title 10, which, by the way, is manufactured housing, to the contrary, that pertains to the licensing that the office does, the office shall issue a license by endorsement. So, in other words, if there's an existing out-of-state licensing process in statute, which could be more restrictive than this PL 160, the licensure by endorsement, or more generous, the boards shall develop a process for establishing a licensure by endorsement process. So it clarifies that even though there's other licensure out-of-state licensure options in statute, this also is a licensure option by statute. So that's what that does.
Great, thank you.
So section 4, this is what I would think you all would be most excited about, says that the office we don't need to wait until all the rules are promulgated in order to issue a license by endorsement. So right now we have had applicants from out of state who would have contacted us, would love to not have to produce all that documentation that I just described, but we cannot issue a license by endorsement under current law until rules have been promulgated through the APA process. So this allows us to do it on a case-by-case basis in advance of rules being promulgated, so we can get those folks into the workforce.
Chair recognizes Representative Geiger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Cohen, I wonder if you could give us a sense of the numbers of cases coming before you. How many people from out of state are applying for licenses and would like to do this truncated process? That, as my understanding is, you are not changing the process. The process has been passed into legislation. It's just the rules have not been written. And rather than deny the ability to all the people currently out of state who are requesting this, that you'd like to go ahead and do what you're going to do once the rules are promulgated. Is that right?
Right. Yes, that is
Can you
correct.
give me a sense of the numbers, both those from other states and or U.S. territories and those foreign born?
Yeah. So I can tell you that we don't have a lot of applicants from out of country. And we don't know, I don't want to get into the whole discussion behind that because there's a lot of things, but I don't know if they are, what the challenge is there, although we are trying whatever we can to encourage folks to apply. So it's very anecdotal. We've had a few. I don't know the numbers, but we've had a lot of applicants from out of state, especially there's been a great in-migration over the last 2 years, to the great benefit of Maine. And so I don't know what the numbers are, but it is, we get a lot of applications.
Thank you so much.
And I have a question for the committee. If we could, I just want to check in with committee members. I don't feel the need to go through all of this if members don't have questions or if this is not useful. If you feel you have a good understanding of the bill already, then I'm happy to move forward. What is Chair recognizes Representative Pebworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do think going through this a little bit further is helpful because it is so last minute, and I really want to make sure that everybody understands it thoroughly.
And questions at very good. I'll keep going. So questions at this point can be directed to either to Ms. Olson or if it's more appropriate to Ms. Cohen. Happy to do both. Ms. Olson is very familiar with the bill also, even though she hasn't written the bill analysis. So I just wanted to clarify that. Let's keep going. Ms. Olson.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to jump in at this point. I have spoken with Deputy Commissioner Cohen, but as the committee moves forward, this section here regarding the concept of being able to issue a license by endorsement before the rules are finally adopted, I do think that this is doable. I would just ask, as the committee considers moving forward with the bill, that they allow me to discuss whether or not this language is more appropriate as an unallocated section. This would be temporary in nature if the boards and commissions, as we're going to see in the rest of the bill, are being told to establish a process to issue a license by endorsement. So this would be essentially to fill the gap, to allow the process to take place on that case-by-case basis, which is not doable in the big picture, but is to help fill that gap. And so since it's only temporary in nature and it might be more appropriate as unallocated language, the language would look almost identical to what you see here if it became unallocated, but that might be a technical change that I would like the committee to consider as they consider moving forward with the bill.
Thank you. And let's keep moving on. Hello, Senator Searway, you have a question.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's directed to Ms. Olson. I just was wondering on that topic you just mentioned, is there any way to simplify that to make it more or less temporary, instead of temporary, or if it is solve the problem and changing the language a little bit where it would be consistent and with the group that's going to be in place? Or is that, I mean, it seems like it's causing a little temporary tiff there where it makes it difficult.
I'm not sure
Ms.
I
Olson?
understand. I'm not sure exactly if I understand what you're asking. I think the intent, and Deputy Commissioner Cohen can correct me, but I think the intent of this sentence is to address the fact that rulemaking will take a more time, a longer period of time, and that the department would like to move forward with the ability to issue licenses by endorsement, which they feel they can do on a case-by-case basis at this point until such time as the rules are developed, both from the office and from each of the licensing entities. So this, and so my comment is a technical one, of just a technical nature, that generally speaking, when something is temporary, we often don't want to include it in statutory language that will exist in perpetuity. That if it's temporary in nature, it's perhaps more appropriate just as an unallocated section. It wouldn't change the intent of the language, just its technical placement.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And let's move ahead.
So the good news is we only actually need to look at one of these sections because the exact same language is repeated in each of the chapters for each of the licensing entities under OPOR. So the reason that there are so many sections is that we have a lot of licensing entities. And as I noted in my, I think I noted in my testimony, there are more sections than there are licensing entities because sometimes the revisor's office needed to change a header in statute. So I'll just start with section 5, which unfortunately I don't know offhand which section 9021 is. Maybe Ms. Olson does?
Oh, well, this one's easy. You gave me an easy one. Nice softball, because it's in Title 10. So this is the manufactured housing.
Oh,
Thank you. You're making me look good.
Of course, I should know that. I didn't pay attention to that. Right. So, okay. So this is the only one in Title 10. The rest are in Title 32. So this is for the licenses under manufactured housing. And so it reads, notwithstanding any provision of this chapter to the contrary, the board shall establish a process to issue a license by endorsement for each license determined by the board as appropriate for licensure by endorsement to an applicant pursuant to section 8003H. And that is the licensure by endorsement process that we established in PL 167 and any rules. The language also states that the applicant may submit an application under the process established under this subsection or any other licensure process authorized pursuant to this chapter. So this recognizes that there may already be in statute a more generous or more appropriate licensing process for that licensed applicant. So again, the goal is to offer the applicant as many pathways to licensure as is appropriate under statute. And then that language repeats itself in each of the licensing chapters under applicable to OPOR.
And I'll just jump in and note, I did note it in my comment, for the most part, it is board is the licensing entity. In a couple of cases, it's director or commission. So the phrase here would be determined by the director or determined by the commissioner. And then just, I know you guys don't care sometimes about all these little technical things, but chapter is occasionally subchapter, so which I indicated in the email. So, but they are those exceptions nearly identical. Everything else is the same.
Are there any questions for on this concept that's applied to all of these different sections of law? Seeing none. Okay. Let's move on down.
I was gonna say they're all the same, and so these are duplicated throughout the rest. And the only thing else that you'll see, for example, here in section 9 of the bill is a change to the head notes. And I believe that's because in some cases of statute, they use the word endorsement, but it doesn't mean what is established in Public Law 167. So they've either just crossed it out because and then created a section for the endorsement as established under section 8003-H, or replace the word with a more appropriate title. And just as a reminder, head notes do not carry the force of law. So so I can scroll through the pages here, but you'll just note the change. And I put a little mark where you might find a different word, director, for example.
Ms. Olson, are any of these the amendment that we're talking about, or are all of these the amendment, or have we not gotten to?
These would all be, so everything noted in that's highlighted in pink would be the amendment. So we'd be making that same change, that same phrase change to each of the things in pink.
Okay.
And that's then that is the amendment.
Okay.
The two things that you've seen. I'm going to finish scrolling to the bottom, and then I'm going to scroll back to the top.
So that wraps up all the changes. So are there additional questions? Were you going to the top to point something out?
No, just that these are, so the amendment would be to make this change here. So it would be notwithstanding any provision of Title 10, Chapter 951, which is the manufactured housing section, which is under OPOR, but not in Title 32, would be to add that. And then it would say of Title 10, Chapter 951, or of Title 32 to the contrary. And then just this additional phrase here. And again, with the committee's consideration of potentially the technical, it may be technically correct to put that in unallocated language instead of in statute, but the clarifying language that it's the office, including the licensing boards and commissions within the office. And that's just technical to be consistent with how it's written in almost every other section, so that there's no confusion over what the office is versus that it does in fact include the licensing boards and commissions within the office as well. And then everything in pink replaced with this phrase using director or commission, chapter or subchapter where appropriate. So.
Does anyone else need the language still up? Or are we ready to stop sharing? Senator Searway. Did you want the language back up?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I just wanted to look at the section 1 and 2 again.
Yep.
I was wondering when Deputy Chair Cohen mentioned about the foreign part, but also mentioned about states, how they compare if our licensing is very similar to some other state. How's that work on the international part too? I mean, I want to just try to grasp that, because if we're going to compare it like the United States and states, I was thinking that it probably has to be all kind of blended together. And that's my question of how, if we take this out, then it's kind of putting a whole different, I guess, balance of what our licensing is. And I'm kind of concerned about that.
Ms. Cohen?
Yep. So the licensure by endorsement process is not available to individuals who are licensed, educated, or trained in a foreign country. So that only applies to in-state licensees. So an individual who's coming from another country will need to show all of the documentation and meet all of the requirements of Maine law. So sections 1 and 2 do not establish a process for that, and they do not allow those individuals to use the out-of-state licensure by endorsement. And that's because they are so different, right? I mean, it would be very difficult to figure out substantial equivalency.
Thank you.
Does anyone else need the documentation in front of us? Let's go ahead and take that down. Is the committee ready for a vote? Or does anyone have questions or comments? Seeing no further questions, Chair recognizes Senator Searway.
Could we just caucus for about 10, 15 minutes, just to make sure everybody's understandable and everything?
If you'd like to caucus, that'd be fine. Before we do so, let's Representative Pebworth, were you seeking to make a motion? Or did you have a question?
I had a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Olson, can you explain a little bit more about the unallocated language, what you're recommending there?
I'm not sure if I'm recommending it. I would like just the committee's leeway to consider it upon internal review. Generally speaking, when something is temporary in nature, which this would be, so because every notwithstanding section that's added to each of the licensing entities directs them, says they shall establish a process for licensure by endorsement. So the rulemaking will occur because they're being told to do so in statute. But until such time, because the department has indicated, and I think we all know that rulemaking takes time, and they acknowledge that they already feel delayed in implementing this and want to get started, and know the committee feels similarly, that they would like to be able, and they believe that they can, and looking at statute, I would agree that they have the necessary statutory requirements in 8003-H to be able on a case-by-case basis to issue a license by endorsement. Although so they would like to be able to do that, and they need permission to do that, because otherwise they cannot issue a license by endorsement until rulemaking is completed. And so this would give a bridge to be able to do that, but it is limited in nature. And I, in my conversation with Deputy Commissioner Cohen, she indicated, it's doable on what's essentially a small scale, case by case. They could not do this. They couldn't run licensure by endorsement whole cloth without rules. But on a case by case basis with what's in statute, they could. And so they want to just be able to, for the people who want it, who have it now, who are ready in this short period of time to be able to issue that license. And so since that's temporary, generally speaking, we don't put temporary directives into statute. That's what unallocated language is usually used for. So that would just be, if the committee is comfortable giving me that discretion to examine that further, when I bring it back on language review, I would say either we've decided to leave it in statute or I moved it to unallocated and take a look closely at that section.
Great. And Senator Searway, would 5 to 10 minutes work, you think, possibly, and then check in and that way 10? 10. All right, we'll go 10. So we'll plan to meet back at 11:10. So we'll give you 12 minutes, and then we'll meet back at 11:10. So we'll be at recess till then. Welcome back, everybody. Let's just, if we could turn on cameras while we check to see if people are here. Looks like we're still waiting for a caucus. Representative Bernard has requested a few more moments, so we will give them that. So check back in here at 11:15. Welcome back, everybody. Just do a camera check, see if we're all here. Looks like those of us who are here, so we will get started. We will continue. Were there any further questions or discussion? Is the committee ready for a vote? I'll entertain a motion. Representative Pebworth, do you have a motion?
Sure. I could make a motion that we ought to pass as amended, LD 2035, period.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a second? Senator Searway is seconds that. All those, I guess we could have discussion. That's right. Representative Hassenfuss.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just would like to include that with that a friendly amendment to that we allow Rachel to determine whether that language she specified earlier should be allocated or unallocated.
And Representative Pebworth, that fine to give those instructions, to include that in the instructions?
Yes, that is my expectation.
Okay, Senator Searway, you're fine with that?
Yeah.
Great. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Reed, would you call the roll? The motion is ought to pass as amended based on the amendment we've been seeing this whole time.
Representative Geiger,
Yes.
Representative Geiger, yes. Representative Andrews,
No.
Representative Andrews, no. Representative Pepworth,
Yes.
Representative Pepworth, yes. Representative Collmore is absent. Senator Rafferty is absent. Senator Searway,
Yes.
Senator Searway, yes. Representative Ducharme, absent. Representative Austin,
Yes.
Representative Austin, yes. Representative Hasselfuss,
Yes, and thank you, Ms. Cohen, for really working hard to put this together in the last few days here.
Representative Hasselfuss, yes. Representative LaRochelle,
Yes.
Representative LaRochelle, yes. Representative Bernard,
Yes.
Representative Bernard, yes. Representative Roberts,
Yes.
Representative Roberts, yes. Senator Curry,
Yes,
Senator Curry, yes.
and number of those in favor, I lost track. Was that not 10?
9.
9, with 9 in favor and 1 opposed and 3 absent, the motion passes. And that will close the work session on LD 2035, except we have a minority report. So we're not quite closed on the work session on LD 2035. Representative Andrews, what is your report?
Straight on, not to pass.
Not to pass. Ms. Olson, did you need something else?
Not on that, no.
Okay, great, thank you. So we will close the work session on LD 2035. Thank you very much, Ms. Cohen, for bringing that before us. Ms. Olson, we have no other scheduled agenda items. Do you have any language review?
I do. I have one thing I need to bring back in front of the committee this morning. And I am thankful to have the opportunity to do it in person over Zoom. I was going to say in person and I realized rather than email. And that is in regards to LD 1923, the Main Space Corporation. So the committee, when we last held and voted on LD 1923, the committee made a change to the membership of the board of directors. At the time, the committee asked that membership be based off of the 5 main DOT regions as designated on the map available on Maine DOT's website. Upon further investigation, I have not been able to identify a statutory reference or rules that we could tie these main DOT regions to. So if you were to look at the map, which I am going to put on the screen, you will note on the map that the regions, the map does also contain county lines. I'm going to put it on the screen. Which I have highlighted with Sharpie so that they are visible. So there is a way to move forward without, because there is no statutory reference or rules, and I did reach out to Maine DOT and they were not able to offer anything that we could tie these regions in color, as you can see, the blue, green, red, gray, and orange. There's nothing we could tie them to. And I originally had thought I'd figured out the statutory reference, and there was a problem even with that, in that they were determined that all the regions of any of Maine DOT's regions, of which there are other options, they're all decided through rule. And as a result of that, they could change at any time, which means the board's membership could change at any time. And in some cases, especially in rule, if it changed, there may not be a trigger to have let the board of directors know that there was a change. And any change would result in an amendment needing to be put forward in front of the legislature to make the board of directors compliant with the statutory reference. So if the committee would still like to have 5 members that represent roughly the geographic regions that are indicated on this map, it would be possible to refer to counties. So for example, you might say that you would have a representative from Aroostook County or Piscataquis County. And then you would say a member from Washington County or Hancock County or Penobscot County. And then the appointments are made by the governor. And so, you know, the governor would need to select an individual from those counties. So it would mirror the main DOT regions by making a county reference. And then our counties are incredibly unlikely to change. So we wouldn't have to worry about that change. Of course, you should note that they're not an exact match. Penobscot County is in 2 different main DOT regions, and Piscataquis is really divided into 3. So there is some discretion within that, but that would be my general recommendation. And I did take the liberty of writing that out and could share what that would look like as well.
Go ahead and share that.
Sure, I'm going to stop sharing to make the transition. And I did see a hand.
Senator Searway?
Well, I think that would be the easiest way for describing. I just wanted to make sure if we go by population or we go by area. I guess those are the 2 questions we're gonna have to decide, I guess.
Yes, so I think that is up to the committee to consider. And so here is just, again, this is just what it could look like. And I did not take into account population centers. I truly did by geography land. So you can make different decisions on how you want to group the counties, but this was based just on the geography of the map. You'd put Aroostook and Piscataquis together, Cumberland, York, and Androscoggin, Washington, Hancock, and Penobscot. And then there would be the addition. So, because we'd still be bringing the total up to 5, a resident of Waldo, Knox, Lincoln, Saginaw, or Kennebec, and a resident of Somerset, Franklin, or Oxford. But again, these are just based off of the geography of the map. And I think I can put those side by side.
Representative Bernard.
Okay, I guess I'd have to take another look at that map, but I just wondered the way that it's written, that it's there now, I can see where someone from, let's say Piscataquis could be representing that northernmost part of the map, thank you, and could also be, you could have somebody from Piscataquis also representing the green part of the map, whatever that is, or the red part of the map. You see what I mean?
Right.
How you've got the lines, but then the colors actually, since there's an overlap, say in Piscataquis of three different geographic areas that you've identified, you could possibly have someone from Piscataquis representing 3 different areas. Do you see what I mean?
Thank you. Representative Bernard, I think we would be abandoning this map and then just going full county. So someone would they'd only have an option for one of the seats, depending on, if they live in Piscataquis, they could only be in the seat that is like in Ms. Olson's recommendation or suggestion was either Aroostook or Piscataquis. Like that would be that position. So the person would have to be from one of those.
Either or, but could not, In other words, not a person, but say two different people from Piscataquis? I'm just asking the question here. So two different people from Piscataquis, Ms. Olson could not be representing, I'll call it the blue part of the map and maybe the pink part of the map.
Right, so the colors would not exist anymore. So you will have one person on the board who is either from Aroostook or Piscataquis.
Okay.
And they would be representing Aroostook and Piscataquis.
That whole blue part of the map.
Well, no, the counties. So the original request was to go by the regions, which are identified by colors on the map, but there's no way to represent that in statute. So I am offering another option, which is to go by county instead of by these regions, which are in color. And I do acknowledge, I am aware of, for example, Piscataquis, the majority of the population of Piscataquis is probably not in this region and is most likely in this region. So I did not do it by population. I just did it by the bulk color. But that's at the committee's discretion to change, to consider which counties to group together. But if you were going by, your original request, I tried to be as faithful to that geographically as possible in my possible option.
Chair recognizes Representative Geiger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to address this issue, I think Representative Bernard, you were not here when we made this change. And I may have this wrong, but my recollection is Representative Collmore wanted to have a board with a member from each county. The majority of the committee decided that was unwieldy, and we tried to find another way to identify regions, and the Department of Transportation regional map that we're looking at was the way we chose. But now Ms. Olson is coming back to us and saying that won't work. That map doesn't exist in statute and could change anytime, leaving us stuck with representatives that no longer apply to the map. And so her alternate suggestion is to divide it by counties instead. We can't reproduce this map because it isn't by counties. And so the question before us is this definition of counties, the way they're broken up, Aroostook or Piscataquis, Cumberland, York, or Androscoggin, Washington, Hancock, or Penobscot, et cetera. Is that the way we want to go? Do we want to tinker with which counties are in which areas to be represented? I think is the question before us, or are we happy with what Ms. Olson came up with as 5 representatives representing several counties each?
Chair recognizes Senator Searway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just looking at one of them is Waldo County, Knox County, Lincoln County, Saginaw, and Kennebec County. Seems like that as far as population wise, it seems like that would be pretty dense. And I think Cumberland County, York County, and Androscoggin are pretty okay, and I think the Washington County, Hancock, and Penobscot would probably be okay. I'm just trying to think out of the box, but it just seems like if we could somehow maybe put, I don't know if Kennebec County should be with Somerset, and I know you got Franklin and Oxford, but it just seems like it's a little heavy on that one, number 6. I don't know what your thought is, but I'm just trying to make it so it's fairly balanced.
I'll just note that while I don't know the populations of sort of each of these areas or counties, that originally that section of Midcoast, that's actually one of the most sort of faithfully drawn counties to regions. So that was originally one of the regions that you had put forward.
Senator Searway, one of the things I am also attentive to is just in terms of process. If we have, we can keep this on language review as long as we're roughly staying with what we voted on in terms of if we're going to go to a completely different structure, we're going to need to reconsider. And so if we're roughly staying on the county, I think that's still language review. It's not a substantive change, it's a technical change. But if we were to go to something different, then we're going to need to go through a different procedure to consider this issue.
No, I agree with you on the, the county way of description. I think that's the way to go, to have 5, and I think she's got the right system. I'm not arguing that. I'm just trying to make a balance, whatever it was.
I think the original, when going on the, I know we had some of this discussion when we were reviewing the map, like what are we covering? I think we're trying to do both, some level of population, but also definitely geographic representation.
Yeah.
Especially given that we might be placing things or encouraging development in various places.
It's okay with me. I mean, it's not really a big deal. It's okay with me. I just thought I'd bring it up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Chair recognizes Representative Hassenfuss.
You're on mute.
Thank you. Representative Hassenfuss.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to answer Representative Geiger's question and pose that same question to everybody, because I think that's really what the crux of this is. And that is, are we okay redefining this through counties and just, grouping them as counties? Or do we need to spend more time and see if there is actually a way that we can, input this map that originally was voted on in statute? I am fine going with the counties. I think they're going to be substantially similar as long as we group them, with the population densities, go like Washington, Hancock, Penobscot, and, then Aroostook with Piscataquis, and then the other ones sort of all speak for themselves there. But I'm fine with the counties. Is everybody else fine with it? If they are, let's just move forward with that. If not, then let's continue discussion.
Does anyone have any problem with what Ms. Olson put forward? So it would be Aroostook County and Piscataquis, Cumberland or Piscataquis, Cumberland County or York County or Androscoggin County, Washington County or Hancock County or Penobscot County, Waldo, Knox, Lincoln, Saginaw, or Kennebec, and the final one being Somerset, Franklin, or Oxford. Is anyone opposed to that? Can you drop the, I don't see any hands. If you can drop the screen share. Is that enough for you, Ms. Olson?
It is. I see some people doing some more consideration on their faces.
You're looking at eyes, okay?
I'm looking at faces. So
that's fine. I don't want to move forward if we're not there. If we say, yeah, that makes sense, then great.
I tried to be as faithful to the intent of the committee in offering this proposal, but it's truly a proposal.
Yep. Senator Searway.
I want to thank Ms. Olson for the great effort here, and it makes sense to me because if you've got somebody covering one part of a county and not the other, that's kind of difficult too. So I think if we've got by counties, it makes more sense. So I tip my hat off to you to come up with a solution.
All right. I think we have agreement on that. I'm not hearing any disagreement on this language review. Representative Pepworth.
I don't know if this is the state stumbling block for others, but if you know the words to the 16 counties of our state, it's problematic to hear them not in that particular order. That is an issue that I can set aside, and I appreciate this geographic separation of the state. So I would be willing to bring a baked good for somebody who would like to sing the song for us here, just in case.
All right. I think we're there in terms of language review. I'm not seeing anyone else.
Okay.
So-
Thank you. I'll make this final change and it'll get processed. And then at this point, I think all of our language reviews are going to continue to be by email. So please be attentive to your emails. They do only require a response if in fact you have an issue or you would like a question answered or you think I should hold it in some way. Without a response, it moves through the loops and your deadlines are short. I'm sure you've noticed because we're trying to process and get things out for you guys on the floor to work as you ramp up your work. So just be as attentive as possible to emails and to let me know if there's anything you need. The committee is meeting on Friday for confirmations. And so you may see me one more time in committee. Oh, and I'm sorry. And the last piece, it doesn't really take action by anyone other than the chairs and the sponsor, but LDE 1923 also includes a new crime. It's the Class E crime associated with the board. If they had an interest and they didn't disclose that interest in property. Do you guys remember that portion of the bill? Okay, hold on, I'll pull it up. All I'm really getting at, you guys actually, and we made an amendment to this section. So like the MIRA and the LDA board, sorry, I hit the wrong button.
And we're talking about the spaceport bill?
Yes, sorry, yes, still the spaceport. So you'll remember we struck this portion, this is gone, but there is still a Class E crime if you are a member of the board, a public official, or an employee of the corporation, and you own or control or have within the last 2 years a direct or indirect interest in the property, plan to be included in a corporation activity, you have to disclose that, and then you're not, you must not participate in any action by the corporation that affects that property. And if you don't disclose and you continue to participate in an action affecting that property then it's a Class E crime. According to Joint Rule 319, whenever a new crime is created, it must be reviewed by the Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee. And so that review will be taking place tomorrow following session with Criminal Justice and Public Safety. And so the chairs and I and possibly the sponsor will be attending. And I believe we have members who are on that committee. If there are questions, I've never done one. This will be my first, but later this afternoon, the letter that explains the process or explains our bill that's being sent to the committee will be sent out to the Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee will be sent to our committee, so you can see that. But the fiscal note was, I believe, sent to the committee, and that included information on the impact on criminal justice and public safety system, which is minor. So there's no major impact, but that is what they do, is they review just the impact on the criminal justice system, not the content of the bill, not the substance of the bill, but only the impact on the criminal justice system with the creation of the new crime. Senator Searway is nodding, so I'm feeling like I did an okay job explaining that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If seeing no other questions and no other business before us, we'll take a motion to adjourn. So, Representative Bernard moves to adjourn, and Representative Roberts seconded that. All those in favor? Have a great afternoon.
Right.